I did not step on the scale one time in those 6 weeks. And that was intentional. So what I did was I got a bod pod at the beginning of the 6 weeks and I got a bod pod at the end, and I just trusted the process. And I took photos of myself once a week in the same bikini, standing in the same position, in the same mirror in my bedroom. And I sent them to her. And she was like, okay, I can see your progress. She goes, just look at your progress. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Energetically Efficient Show. I've got a really quick but fun one for you today, all about how I'm going to get you in shape for spring break or in shape for summer or whenever it is that you listen to this episode. I'm going to take you through exactly what I did in my very first bodybuilding prep that got me down to 14% body fat, and then my second prep, which got me down to 13% body fat. And I did this, you guys, in a really short period of time. My prep was only 6 weeks. So the reason that I want to share this with you is if you have something coming up, an event coming up, a spring break coming up, a summer event coming up, a wedding coming up, something where you're like, I just really want to dial in my macros so well, Kristin, and really feel my best and look my best in the shortest amount of time, this is your game plan to do that. Now, I'm going to warn you, it's very strict. And it is strict because if you have a goal that you truly want to look your best at whatever you're about to get ready for, you would stick with this plan that I'm about to give you. So obviously I was motivated with this plan because I was going to step on stage in a bikini at the age of 40 years old in front of a bunch of strangers and have to move around and be judged about my body. This was my very first bodybuilding show that I did in 2017. And at the time I was very busy lawyering. I wasn't as into nutrition, so I really didn't know exactly, well, I shouldn't say that. I was into nutrition, but I certainly hadn't studied it or gone back to school for it yet. So I really didn't know what I was doing, especially when it came to getting ready for a bodybuilding show. So I hired someone to help me prep for my bodybuilding. Okay. And so what I want to take you through is exactly what I did, exactly what I ate for 6 weeks in a row so that you can consider mimicking this if you really want to be disciplined about your body as well. And I promise you guys, especially for you women, if you really want to see results, you would do something like this. Now it's interesting because I've done other podcast episodes here where I talk all about fasting and the benefits of fasting. This is the opposite of fasting. And the reason that it works is because what you're going to be eating, and you'll hear in a moment when I go through exactly what I ate, is you're eating largely protein and vegetables. Now, the thing about protein is you cannot store protein on your body. Okay. If you overconsume protein, it can get stored at glucose, or it can get converted rather to glucose, which is then stored. But for the most part, you can't store it on your body. So it's a very effective way to lose weight quickly, to lose body fat quickly rather, and gain lean muscle tissue, to eat a lot of protein and then of course strength train on top of it. So I'm going to walk you through this. You might be shocked at how much protein I consumed at the time, but it really is very effective in terms of helping you lose body fat and gain muscle at the same time. And one more thing that I want to tell you before I take you through this is that in the course of 6 weeks, because I did a bod pod right before, and then I did a bod pod at the end right before my show, I gained 7 pounds of muscle and I lost 5% body fat in 6 weeks. I looked like a different person. I always say I just like all of the body fat went away and my muscles popped more than ever. And that was perfect for being on stage. Now, I don't recommend that women do this for long term, of course. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, I did lose my cycle at the time. It definitely probably impacted my hormones a bit, but it was very effective for feeling and looking my best and stepping on stage and winning a lot of trophies, which was really, really fun. So get ready because you're not going to believe exactly what it was that I ate. So you're going to eat, the first thing I want to tell you is you're going to eat 6 times a day. And that's the reason that most people couldn't stick to this long term, especially my clients, because they're busy executives. Many of them are lawyers. Many of them are entrepreneurs. Many of them are CEOs. They run their own business. It's not realistic for most people to eat 6 times a day. But again, if you have a goal or if you want to run an experiment like this on your body, you will be blown away at the results if you decide to try this. So the first thing I would do in the morning is I would have warm water. I would have 8 ounces of warm water with a teaspoon of lemon juice and a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. And that was every single morning. So I'd make sure I had that warm water. And then the first meal that I would eat, and this usually would happen around 7 a.m. for me, is that I would have 1 scoop of whey isolate or 1 cup of egg whites. So I would have to do that before I worked out. So actually that was earlier in the morning. Then I would work out, and then I would have a cup of oatmeal with a scoop of whey isolate and then a half a cup of fruit. So I could add cinnamon to it. I could add a little bit of stevia or a tiny bit of unsweetened almond milk, but that was it. So basically the first meal was just whey protein isolate or egg whites. The second meal was oatmeal with whey protein isolate. And then the third meal was 6 ounces of organic grass-fed ground beef. It had to be 90-10 with 1 cup of green vegetables. So that was the third time I would eat. The fourth meal was 5 ounces of boneless, skinless chicken thighs with 1 cup of green vegetable. And the fifth meal was 4 ounces of chicken breast, 2 ounces of avocado and 1 cup of green vegetable. And the sixth meal is 5 ounces of salmon and 1 cup of green vegetable. So I was eating 6 times a day, which means in order to be able to eat that many times a day and not stack the meals up on top of each other, all of the meals are really designed to be eaten 2.5 to 3 hours apart. So I would eat on average at 7 a.m., 9:30 a.m., noon, 2:30, again at about 5:30, and again at about 8 o'clock at night. It's a lot of eating, you guys. There's no intermittent fasting happening with this plan. This was just, you have to get all the protein in and you have to eat this many vegetables because then you'll be full. And I will tell you, because my macros were 1,900 calories a day, 200 grams of protein, 95 carbs, and 75 grams of fat, I was very satiated. 200 grams of protein is kind of crazy. So that was 6 weeks out. And I'm just looking at my notes from my particular nutritionist that I hired. I had to have 1.5 gallons of water daily. I had to eat the meals about 3 hours apart. 2.5 was fine. I could lightly salt all of my meats and my egg whites with fine sea salt. I could use things like salsa, hot sauce, balsamic vinegar, mustard, any kind of seasonings that added no extra calories. For the greens, or from the green vegetables, it was eating things like broccoli, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, spinach, kale, green peppers, zucchini, celery. I had to add lemon juice to all of my vegetables. I could not touch an ounce of dairy. There was no dairy whatsoever because dairy is inflammatory. Dairy is bloating. Dairy impacts your goals. The protein powder had to be an isolate. I would have to do gluten-free for my oats. She added things like glutamine powder using turmeric. I could have coffee with 1 tablespoon of coconut oil, but I couldn't do a lot of additional fats. It was kind of wild. And then I just want to tell you guys about my refeed because I had to do that. So those 6 meals that I just walked you through, you do every single day the same, Monday through Saturday. And then on Sunday, I would have a refeed. So Monday through Saturday is the low carb, which was 95 carbohydrates with 75 grams of fat. That's really low carb and low fat. It's mostly protein, which is why it's so effective at helping you drop body fat and gain muscle. So I would do that. And then on Sunday, I had to do a refeed. Now, when you hear about the refeed, you're going to be like, huh? Because that's how I felt. Guys, I actually didn't like it. I thought I would be super excited about it. They always call those days, if you ever looked at images of The Rock on his refeed day, where he eats tons of sushi, he eats all these chocolate chip cookies, he eats tons of pancakes. Like, you almost think, oh my God, that sounds amazing. And then you realize how much gut rot you have if you eat that much food. So here was my refeed day. I got 4 meals on my refeed day, and they were, I had to do the lemon juice, apple cider vinegar, and the water again in the morning. But then my first meal was, I would make protein pancakes. So she had me using at the time, which is so funny because I had not gone back to school for nutritional therapy and I would never use any of this garbage now. But I had to use 3/4 of a cup of Kodiak Power cakes, mixed with a half a cup of water and 1/4 a cup of egg whites. So I would make those as pancakes. And then I would use a cup of fruit and a half a cup of sugar-free syrup on top, which is just so crazy. And the brands that she recommended, of course, have nothing by way of nutrition. I would now say, okay, you could use something like a monk fruit syrup. You could use a Lakanto syrup or something that's actually good for you. These were brands that were not, like Carrie's or Walden Farms. But again, the goal was to get on stage and look a certain way. I wasn't really cared about the details at that time. My second meal was sushi. So I would get sushi rolls, like an average pack that had 12 rolls. I had to eat them all, and it must include rice. So I was like, sweet, I get pancakes for breakfast. I get sushi for lunch. But honestly, you guys, this had so many carbohydrates. Wait until I tell you the macros. I was like, well, by the time I got done with it. Meal 3, 4 ounces of chicken breast with 6 ounces of Barilla Protein Plus pasta, weighed after cooking, a half a cup of organic and low sugar red sauce. So then she gave some examples of some sauce. So I was eating pasta with chicken for dinner. And then my 4th meal, I had to eat 5 ounces of chicken breast and 1 green vegetable. So that was my refeed day. I basically had 3 big carb meals and 1 meal that hardly had any carbs. And that's what I did every single week for 6 weeks. So again, there was no variation. I laugh. When I write meal plans for my clients, customized meal plans, they're like, okay, wait, so I'm eating the same thing every day for this week? I'm like, yes, but then you'll get another meal plan for next week and it'll be different every week. But you would die if I gave you something different to eat every single day because you'd never be able to keep up with the cooking and the baking and the prepping because I want you to eat largely real food. So that's a very efficient way to do meal planning. This was a little extreme because it was the same thing every day for 6 weeks, other than the refeed, which happened every Sunday for 6 weeks. So that's what I did. And again, it got me down to, I was just looking at some of my results. It got me down to, as I recall, I thought it was 14%. It might've been 15% body fat. Doesn't matter. I will show you a couple photos from that competition here. It was really, really fun. What I told her the following year, because I did hire her again, is I said, and I'm just looking at this. Oh yeah, she had some, during peak week, I had to do things a little bit different. So like Tuesday, Wednesday of peak week, I had a couple differences. Actually, a couple days before the show, it was mostly just turkey or tilapia. I had some jasmine rice. There were things that we changed up during peak week. I forgot about that. But it was really, really fun by way of an experiment because I could not get over how much my body changed. And I will tell you guys, I did not step on the scale one time in those 6 weeks. And that was intentional. So what I did was I got a bod pod at the beginning of the 6 weeks and I got a bod pod at the end. And I just trusted the process. And I took photos of myself once a week in the same bikini, standing in the same position, in the same mirror in my bedroom. And I sent them to her. And she was like, okay, I can see your progress. She goes, just look at your progress time over time. She would have me send her a photo the night before my refeed and then the morning after my refeed so that my muscles were filling out. And she was so excited about that. So it was just a really fun experiment. It was so challenging to do while practicing law full time. But what I would do is every night when I got home, no matter how late it was, I would get all of my food ready for the next day. And I would have it in separate containers in my fridge in baggies so that when I got back from my run the next morning, I could just like shower, get ready and take all of my food in the car to go to the office. And I didn't have to screw around with getting anything ready in the morning because the mornings were so busy. So that is what I did for 6 weeks leading up to my first show. I do want to share with you guys just briefly how I changed it for 2018, because in 2018, I told her, I said, frankly, I'm having too hard of a time with all of this 300. Oh, I forgot to tell you the macros for that refeed day. You have to hear this. This is nutty. So on the refeed day, I'm just pulling that up again. Remember how I told you my macros were 1,900 calories with 200 grams of protein, 95 carbs, and 75 grams of fat? The refeed day, wait for it, 2,200 calories, 165 grams of protein, 300 grams of carbohydrates, and 40 grams of fat. Okay. It was a ton of carbohydrates. And frankly, my body just doesn't do that well with that many carbs. I had been a low carb athlete for at least 2 years leading into that, maybe 3 years leading into this. So that was very challenging for me and I did not love it. So the following year, I asked her when I hired her again, I said, can we change it up this year? Because what I'm really looking for is something different. I don't want to do something that has that many carbohydrates on the day. And she's like, sure, we can totally change it. And so we did. So what we did for the, next year, where I actually got down to 13% body fat for my show, and I only had a 4-week prep that time, is I did low, low, low. So low carb, low carb, low carb days, 3 days in a row, and then a high carb day, and then low, low, low again, and then a high carb day. So basically every 4th day I did a high carb day. And that way we could split the 300 grams of carbs into 2 different days. So my high carb day in that prep was only 155 grams of carbs on the high carb day instead of 300. So I would do 155 grams of carbs twice a week. Basically, it was every 4 days. So it wasn't always twice, but it was every 4 days. And then I would have the low carb day on the other days. So my low carb day for that prep was only 1,800 calories. So I went down a bit, 210 grams of protein, 60 grams of carbs, and 70 grams of fat. And then my high carb day was 1,750 calories. So it was less, 210 grams of protein, 155 grams of carbs, and 25 grams of fat. It was really challenging. So I really liked my second batch of prep better. I still had 6 meals. I still basically had to eat protein with vegetables. I got to have a little bit of MCT oil in my coffee, which was amazing because I really enjoyed that at the time. And I focused on mostly cod, tilapia, chicken, turkey, salmon, grass-fed ground beef, and then also egg whites. And so it was just a lot of meat, a lot of fish, a lot of whey protein because I did still have that oatmeal in the morning, but I told her I wasn't going to eat before I ran. I couldn't do it. I wasn't going to get up at 4. I had to be at the office early. I like to run before. She wanted me to slow down on my running simply because the desire, of course, was to put on muscle and lose body fat. So she didn't want me running too much, but I wanted to do that at least a few times a week. So we came up with a deal where when I got back from my run, I would eat the oatmeal with protein powder. And then all the meals after that were the egg whites, grass-fed ground beef, cod or tilapia, turkey or chicken, and then salmon. And then we did that refeed every 4th day. And I'll tell you what the refeed was just so you can hear this high carb day. It was things like I still did the egg whites with avocado and green vegetable. So that wasn't carbs, but then I would do jasmine rice with the cod or sweet potato with the cod or jasmine rice with the turkey. So 3 of the meals I was doing basically rice or sweet potato. And then I still had the oatmeal in the morning, but it made it more manageable because it was only 155 grams of carbs instead of 300. I just didn't want the sushi rice, so much sugar. I didn't want the crappy protein pasta. It just didn't make me feel good. So this was a much better thing, and my results were even better getting ready for that show. So I hope that you found this little meal prep episode helpful for you. If you are ever interested in coaching for something that is a one-on-one style where I can coach you through something like this, but nearly not as extreme, I work on customized meal plans with my clients all the time. My clients are busy executives. I love serving them. I love helping them to get to their fat loss goals. And so you can always feel free to reach out. We'll put a link below this video to an application to work with me. And then if that interests you, otherwise just stay tuned for another episode when we will be back next week. And until then, I will see you later. Bye-bye.